Welcome in, everyone. This is our flow recap for the week of 8/22/2025 to 8/29/2025. As always, we're going to look at the flow alerts that were called out. We're going to look at the full range of the contracts. We're going to look at how the flow moved, and we are going to kind of just look at some tips and tricks to reading the flow. We're going to start with last Friday. Obviously, for those that are new to joining, I like to recap the last Friday's trades into next week. Sometimes they don't run, so that's why I kind of do that. And if you're new to joining us, everything is posted in here real time. I don't edit my posts. Everything is recapped. So let's get started here. So from last week, we had the 9.5 BACs. These actually ended up moving more this week as well. This was our initial entry here, 207,000 at 72 for a fill. These hit a high of 198 today, so giving us a big move of 175% on those. I'm not going to spend too much time on last week's stuff, obviously, because they are from the last video. CMG here, these ones are down a little bit still right now. Last week coming in here at 67, they're trading at about 22 right now, down about 67%. Doesn't mean you have to be down 67%. You should always have risk management and a plan if you're following whales. That's all I got to say there. 21 days on these as well still. Whale could see a move made. We'll have to see what happens with those. So now moving on to this week's trades here. So Walmart here, this was actually, I had to pull this up here, sorry. This was from our flow and charts play. This came in the 25th, so it would have been valid on the 26th. Never hit my trigger. I was actually looking for it to make another little move down here to that uptrend. This was actually, I scratched it today. We didn't hit the target. Walmart was kind of just choppy and ended up moving up. This was our flow. Obviously, that's your whale. I was looking to kind of get in here, maybe the 26 at a discount. Started to move up and obviously made a big move into today. Didn't trigger, not a problem. So up next, we have the 11/21/32 Intel calls. On some of these that haven't made a move yet or they're down, I'm going to kind of hold off a little bit on them. And I'll kind of obviously not dive super deep into them. But Intel, again, obviously we had a lot of premium here. 3,300 contracts, 317,000 premium. Still a lot of time on these two, so keep this in mind with the longer term flow. Sometimes it can take a little bit to kind of materialize. I always tell people with the longer the flow, probably the longer the idea is for that whale, they probably on a longer time frame. Obviously, if you're trading weeklies, you're expecting a move quicker. If you're 84 days out, could be expecting a little longer move, maybe waiting for some news, something like that. But here's your flow. I just kind of want to show everybody here. And again, the flow's not always going to be 100% correct and work every time. If it did, that would be amazing. Everybody would be rich and happy, but these whales are people too. That's why you have to always have risk management and obey stops and just be a smart trader. Like when we look at this flow, I mean, you're seeing that IV increase all the way up. The flow's coming at the ask, so it reads as a buy. No, we don't know. I mean, just because your different factors all match, and these are my rules essentially. I want IV increasing. I like to see that spot coming at the ask. So if that doesn't happen, or if it happens and the flow doesn't move, it happens. Just have to be smart. But this whale trading about 56 right now, so that whale's down 41%. Again, 84 days on these still. So up next, we have the PDD, the 9/5/128 call. So I'm going to pop this back to 2 days, and we're going to look at the 26th here, because that's when they made their move. So really interesting flow here. You had that ask side flow here. Flow was pretty interesting here. Sorry, if I overlapped wording there. I had somebody show up at the front door, had to run upstairs. So So our flow here again, the 25th, you can see a lot of that volume. So this whale actually cut the same day. See 1100 contracts. We're just going to be rough here with the numbers. 1100. You have about 900 there, plus another 200 there. That whale cut. So opened them at 375, cut them at about 325, 290-ish. That whale did miss out on a pop though. So these did open on the 26th at about 564. With that spread, it would have gave you a 610 high. So that whale actually missed out on a 62.67% gain. So really good move on those contracts. That whale just didn't get the move on them. Cut same day. Don't know why, obviously. We'll never know why that whale did what they did. But good move on those. They still ran in our favor. And one good thing about this too, so when we look at this actual raw flow as well, when you come in here, again, you can see what I mean. If you've been following me for a while, you notice my flow pretty much is all very similar. Little wider bid-ask spread here, but all that flow coming at the ask, and you can see when that flow starts to continuously come in, that IV spikes as well. Now when we look at the bid side candle, you can see that IV is actually increasing a little bit as well still. This is kind of why it's important to look. That whale did close these, and this is kind of why I always say it's not always going to be 100%, because if you saw this by itself without that previous ask side flow, you might think, okay, well, these are buys at the bid. Well, that whale actually sold. So that's kind of why paying attention to volume and open interest can be big too. But you do see kind of when that flow did start coming in here a little bit too as well. You see that IV kind of drop a little bit here, but does again rise at the end there. So sometimes I'd say about 8 out of 10 times your flow is going to make a good move in your direction if you follow your rules and follow that flow. But that whale again exiting, and actually we can take a peek at this other bid side candle, see if we can see some with that. Let's see here. So when we remove that time filter, let's see if we'll do it. Sometimes it can be a little fussy if try to go back here a couple pages. Sometimes it might not read here. Let's see. Just trying to get to where that flow came in, and that timing was 10 and then 10:10. So a little bit to go here. Should be on that next page. And I'm Central Time again for those that might be just new to joining. So okay, it's for some reason not pulling up for me. Okay, well, sorry about that. Sometimes when you're trying to look at previous flow, it can be kind of a little funky, especially with a lot of volume and all that on there. But you could see, obviously, they closed that same day with that volume not carrying over. But again, making a good move in our direction still. So those PDDs did move from 375 to 610, 62.67% there. So up next, we have the IBM, the 1017-225 puts. This whale is still in. Here's our flow. 1,000 contracts, 264,000 in premium. Contracts ran about 219 right now, so that whale's down about 15%. Still a lot of time on those as well. When you come in here and look here, again, reads as a buy. You see that IV spike there. Flow coming in at the ask. Good size, good premium. Even see that IV spike a little bit up here too. Don't know for sure 100% if this whale is involved with this, just because that timing's not matched up, but you can see all this other previous timing here. You can see that IV pop here as well when that big trade in premium and size come in there. So it reads as a buy. Obviously a lot of time on those still, down 15% with 49 days. And up next we have the 926.74 ARC puts. This was a really good, interesting one. Here's your flow originally on the 25th coming in here we look at the raw flow feed, and let me pop the results out. Always important to look at the full spectrum of everything here. So you can see when that flow starts to come in here, IV spikes, you're coming in at the ask. IV drops a little bit there towards the end, but we actually got in here on that second candle at the 242, because when you take a peek at this, come in here, so you see that IV start coming up again here, and that IV rising here as well. So that's what kind of confirmed it for me. We actually got in on that second candle. A lot of size, a lot of premium coming in here, good sign. When we come over here as well, you can see most of that volume carrying over. You can see them actually adding here on the 26th. So again, another misconception is that all ask side flow is a buy, all bid side flow is a sell. We had a lot of mid and bid side flow come in here, and these were actually adds because that volume carried over, which these hit their high here on today, Friday the 29th. So moving from that 242 to 270, whale's only up about 11.5% here, closing near that high almost. Still some time on these as well. Obviously seeing a lot of net put premium there too. So still a positive play, and I like to tell everybody I like to at least look for 10-15% on a trade. If I'm up 10%, I have a stop on at break even. I'm not going to give up a 10% gain. I can always secure profits, and I can recycle those profits and move them into another trade. If I see a discounted entry that I like, I can just hop back in with those recycled profits. But 15%, 10%, those are great trades. If you keep taking profits, that you're going to really see your portfolio start looking a lot better as well too. Versus being up 10, 15%, letting it go negative 30%. At least have something on it break even. Should be securing some gains at least. But those arcs, again, making about a 11% move here. Still some time on them. Up next, we have the 926 RGTI 15 calls. These made a massive move here. Again, the 25th, you can see most of that volume carrying over. About half of that volume looks like could be ads here on the 26th, kind of carrying over. Probably passed them off to somebody else too at that 121-ish level, but most of that volume's still in here. And these ran from 104 and they hit the high of 289 yesterday on the 28th. So big spike there. Looks like they're still in. Look at that raw flow feed as well here. Let's see why. Okay. 2 o'clock. Okay. So I'm going to have to go one more page. Okay. So here's where our flow started coming in. Again, you can see that IV up there, and you see that IV drop a little bit in here. Well, continued it. This is why you got to always pay attention to the flow around it as well. IV spikes back up, and then we have a big spike here with the size and the premium. Very, very good sign here. And even here you have some of that flow coming in above the ask. And this is why you saw that IV drop here as well too. That flow came back in at the ask, but all this other flow is above the ask. That is very unusual, as you'd say. So with something like that, you're going to probably discount that IV drop there because it's coming in at the ask technically still. And your bid ask is still kind of messed up there, obviously, with a lot of it coming in above the ask of the original. But nonetheless, very interesting, good flow. And you can see we made that big move here, 104. Hitting that high of 289 here yesterday on the 28th, 177.88% max return on those. And just because I'm saying the max return, I just like to show the full range of the contract. You're more than likely never going to exit at the peak, but I just like to show everybody the full range of the contracts just to kind of help people understand how you can maybe adjust up stops throughout the process. Like, you're making a good move up here, you should have a stop on a trailing stop or something like that. But on these big drawdowns like this, you're probably going to get stopped out if you have a stop on. But that comes with kind of just time in the market and learning, trading, all that fun stuff. But good move on those again, 104 to 289, 177.88%. Up next, we have the 9591 TQQQ calls. Here was our entry here, 253. I have 254 marked here. 2,000 contracts, 520K premium. You can see back here on the 26, a lot of size coming in here. So just kind of verifying to make sure it's an opening trade. I always kind of pop back here if that open interest is very similar to the volume, just to kind of see how that looked, and it looked like an opening trade to me. And again, that's kind of something, the more advanced you get with trading and using unusual whales, the easier it is to read like that. Like right away, I could probably tell that. But if you're a little newer, I like to stick to kind of the very easy ones to be able to track, I'd say. But your flow coming in here, he's hitting a high of 350 here on the 28th, giving us from 254 to 350. That's a 37.80% gain. Ran into yesterday, obviously, on the 28th yesterday. Some more flow there. Just kind of a lot of contracts changing hands in here, too, so hard to tell what's still in there. Whale probably passed those off to somebody else. They're a very similar size candle, but still enough to take some profits there. Reviewing the 919.13.5 calls. Again, here's our flow, 2,000 contracts, 60 cents, 124K. Come here and look at the premium. Again, IV spikes. You can see we're coming in at the ask, a little wider bid-ask spread. Coming in at the ask the whole way up. IV stays up, very good sign. Probably some retail trades coming in here, so I kind of don't count those. It just, again, kind of comes with timing in the market, learning to read this stuff. That timing is not exactly the same versus this time where it's exactly the same millisecond. But your move here, 60, and these hit a high of actually 87 today with that spread at open. Obviously, you can see we opened up pretty high. So that would have given you a 45% return today, or a max return of 45%. Microsoft here, this one is very interesting. I'm going to adjust this now because we're getting closer to the end. 500 contracts here, opened at 4, only 200,000 in total premium. We had 500,000 come in today at 297. So either this whale is averaging down, or they are selling them at the ask. But these contracts closed at 276 today. That whale's down 31%. Obviously, again, a little more time on these as well. Still seeing that put premium kind of creeping up there a little bit. Have to see. This one you'd want to confirm on Tuesday. Monday's market is closed, so you're not going to get an open interest update. Just to see how much of that carries over. Like to see, obviously, roughly 1,200, 1,300 contracts in that open interest. Now, if this drops to about 200, you know that will cut those. So up next, the Oscar 919.20.5 calls. Another one that's just kind of chopping along for now. Whale still in 1,900 contracts, 105,000 premium. Contracts trading at 21 here, so that whale would be down 61% on those. Obviously, a couple weeks left on those as well. Guild, the 919.314 calls, he's made a massive move up. Here's our flow here. When we came in, come down here and take a peek at the results. Again, you see that IV spike when it comes in. Flow coming in at the ask. Looks very good. Looks like a buy. You do have some drop there in that IV, but again, probably part of that trade. You see that IV kind of spike here, and you're very similar. I mean, you got, where did we go? Right here. It's a pretty big amount of premium coming in there with that spike. Looked good there. And obviously your flow here, 445, ran instantly, hit its high of 725 today. That's 62.92% there. And even just kind of looking at those net premiums the last couple days and pop this out 7 days, just look at all that net call premium on Guild here, and that's gold for those that might not know. That's a lot of net call premium, so keep that in mind. I always kind of like to look at that as well. So up next we have the BE 919.45 puts. Again, these made a nice little move here, and I'm gonna pop this back to a day. Again, taking a peek at the flow here. We'll see if it lets me go back a page without being fussy. Nope. Let's just do it like this. So IV staying up. Spot price coming in at the ask. And making a kind of choppy same day. And then we hit our high of 138 today. Actually, pretty much closing near the high here at 25.45%. So a good move on those. UAL here. These ones made a quick little pop intraday. So this is again why I always tell people to put a stop on. Let's take a peek at the flow. Come down here. It's going to be fussy, I bet. Yep. Okay, one more time. Take a peek at that flow. And just, you see that IV staying up. It looks good. This is a pretty wide bid-ask spread too, and you're coming at the ask. That is very unusual. So these did run right away. So this is a good lesson here. I always tell people to adjust these stops up and you can recycle your profits. You're chopping near the high of the day for about an hour here. So 11:10 Central to about 12:10 Central. Even kind of popping here a little bit towards the end of the day. But these hit a high of 267 on the day. That's a 20% gain. I have a stop on it, at least for 10% there. If you hit if you collect 10% and you have to recycle your profits and re-enter on a low like today where we dipped, that is the best thing you can do is recycle profits. Adjust your stops up, secure these profits. Because you can always re-enter with gains that you got. It's way better than continuously averaging down because you don't know what's going to happen. If, again, like I said earlier in the video, if you're collecting 10, 15% over and over, you're going to see your portfolio be very happy. And if you're taking break-even losses and even small losses and just re-entering and being smart with your money and managing it correctly, you're going to be a lot happier in the future. But those did make us intraday move from 222 to 267. It's a 20.27% gain. Whale still in with time. And the TTMIs, I can't really show much for this one. There's not really any volume on it. But if we pop into Webull here, and I just have this one set as a break even just because you're not seeing any movement, but almost a 5% move down today. I mean, those contracts are up. And if these are the 1017s. 1017 45 put. I mean, these are running at 340 for a bid ask there. So go with the low end and say 340 on those. These would actually be up 25% as well. So, and that's just going with the low end there. You're just not seeing any action on that one to really show anything. It's just going to show break even there. 2 volume. But yeah, good move on those. And up next, so now we're moving on to Friday. The XPEVs, these made a move intraday. Again, your flow 98 here, hitting a high of 117 on the day. That's 19.39% gain intraday. Again, just looking at that flow. And I always pop those results out. You just want to see as much data as possible. 5311. IV staying up there. So it drops a little bit here, but again, you're only seeing that one size. So it's not like it's that 106 there, or a lot of that premium causing that that's what would probably make me not want to take it. But when it's 1 or 2 contracts, not a huge deal. Then IV just staying up, flow coming in at the ask. Moved intraday, obviously. You can see moving down, and these came in pretty close to open, 845. Can see that in here. Big move down. QQQ, these made a good move. We actually got it on the 284 spike. Just again looking at that raw flow. IV spikes, drops a little bit, then spikes up again. Drops kind of all over the place. So now again, this is one where kind of just knowing how to read the flow helps a lot. That IV to me isn't as important since I have other flow before. You can see that big massive spike before, and then we have more there. Well, we moved up and obviously kind of chopped near the high for most of the day. Looks like that whale probably taking some profits here throughout the day. Hitting a high of 434 on the day. That's a 52.28% gain. I can probably tell you that whale is taking some profits. Just these are shorter term over a long weekend. So good move on those. Again, 285 to 434, 52.28% on the QQQ puts. So the 919 of firm 87.5 puts. Again, a nice move on these. 371, 375-ish. Whale looked to add there. Hit a high of 483 there on the day. Kind of toward right before power hour. So 27.11% on those intraday. Can't argue with a gain like that. Guild, this was a massive whale here. 28 million in total premium. Right away, that should catch everybody's attention. And 78,000 contracts. Massive whale. Absolutely massive. And you can see this came in as one trade. This is why I like having flow around these kind of blockish trades, I call them. You can see that IV spike. And you can kind of just see that flow around it. See it just kind of... This isn't really going to change my mind on much, any of this flow after. I like to see that flow before and how that hits that tape and what that size and premium are going to do. Makes it increase. It's a floor trader. And off to the races intraday, 360. Hitting a high of 455 there. Where am I? 455, so 26.39% on those. And gold is obviously impacted by macro stuff too, so kind of knowing macro conditions, that helps as well. And we got one left here, the 95C98 calls. Flow come in here, little shorter term here, closing at 62, so that whale's down 21%. They're going to need a big move next week to kind of make up for that. Only 1% out of the money, though. So, like something like this, when I see it short term, I might wait, especially knowing it's in a longer weekend, to get in on Tuesday so I can kind of capture more of a move and kind of that theta decay won't hit you, obviously, if you get in on Tuesday. But that's all I got for the flow recap this week. As always, if you're interested in joining Stock Hub, it is in the description below. And if you're new, I have a couple new products with Stock Hub. We have Keith. He is a 38-year option trader that's been licensed, worked with hedge funds, everything. He's very, very good. I always suggest getting the Stock Hub plus Keith's research. He has a big research folder as well. And if you'd like to try unusual whales, I do have a 10% discount code in the description as well. Have a great extended weekend, everybody.